one. I say self high five.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, the buzz term that we keep hearing out in the industry is secure supply chain.
We can be awkward. I'm very good at being awkward.
Old man Frank. No exercise, COVID.
Yeah, hopefully you don't take a dart to the neck or anything like that.
Right, with Frank the Tank in Old School. Yeah,
Don't explain it though. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at Microsoft Ignite. I am Sonia Dara and I'm a Surface Product Marketing Manager. And today we have an extra exciting session, not only because it's the topic, that's top of mind for everyone working from home and learning from home in the world, but because it's also the kickoff of our brand new Surface YouTube series. We'll be doing regular episodes, sharing the latest and greatest, and going deep on topics specific to all things Surface, with engineers, designers, and innovators bringing the latest devices to life. So today's topic, though, is specifically around security. And my co-host for today's show is Frank Buchholz, who leads the IT Pro community for Surface. He's also one of my favorite colleagues. I lovingly call him Frank the Tank. Welcome.
It's funny that you call me Frank the Tank. I'm totally reminded of Will Ferrell and how he's been the first guest on, say, Conan O'Brien's show or even David Letterman's show. So I take that as an honor. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like I look like Coco right now.
You got to get the hair a little higher.
A little more orange,
Yeah.
a little red.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
So later on in the show, we're also going to have some subject matter experts from across Surface and Windows joining us, and they're going to be talking more about how Surface is keeping all of our customers secure. So Frank, why don't you take it away? Let's get started.
No, thanks, Sonia. Happy to be here. I'm really looking forward to today's session. Today, endpoint security is super critical to how we think about our devices. A lot of people talk about cloud-based security and even operating system security, but protecting that endpoint is something that's really important. Our engineering team has taken a unified approach from our firmware protection to our end-to-end protection and how we put in our hardware design. We think of that firmware development on our holistic approach and how we update the device through Windows Update and manage it with Microsoft Endpoint Manager as our complete approach to security.
Frank, it seems like with each passing week, more stories are coming out about security breaches and data leaks hit the news cycles, and with each incident affecting more and more people than before. Certain industries such as healthcare and financial services and government are, especially vulnerable as they deal with, personal information, confidential, and on the scale of tens of millions of people, right? So how does Microsoft Surface with Microsoft 365 help protect customers as well as, all these IT organizations to securely deploy and manage devices in the hands of, all their employees and all their students?
Those are great points, Sonia. As we enter a new hybrid form of work, Surface and Microsoft 365 give people the freedom to work where they want and how they want. All of this is protected by Microsoft security and modern manageability. Our 4 pillars that truly differentiate Surface are Microsoft designed and built components, factory level security protocols and inspection, advanced Windows security factory enabled, and the ultimate control via remote device management with tools like Microsoft Endpoint Manager. These 4 pillars ensure a highly secured Surface PC. And when you think of Surface, you should think of enterprise-grade security for everybody. With Surface and M365, your devices are just secure in your home office as they are in your corporate office.
To go deeper, I would love to bring in some other experts across Surface and Windows. I'd like to welcome Mary Beth Anderson from Surface Engineering and Catherine Holdsworth from Windows Engineering. So they're going to share a bit more about Surface and security alongside Frank and me. Welcome, Mary Beth and Catherine. Yay! Okay, Mary Beth, we're going to start with you, and you're coming in from Idaho. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so Microsoft Surface talks about chip to cloud-based security. Can you really describe for us what that means?
Sure, Sonia. So in the Surface team, we look at security through all layers of the ecosystem our device lives in. Chip refers in general to the Surface-specific features such as our Microsoft Mu-based UEFI and our discrete trusted platform modules. Cloud refers to the OS and applications ecosystem our devices live in. With our partners in Windows and the M365 security teams, we ensure we have a great security solution for our customers. We aim for defense in depth across multiple layers, including hardware, firmware, software, applications, and identity. All of these layers must be addressed to have a complete security solution for our customers from chip to cloud.
All right, Catherine, this question is for you. So when we say there is a value in a built-in versus bolt-on in a single vendor, what does this mean for consumers and for our commercial customers?
So Sonia, built-in just makes it easier to deploy in my mind. So our teams think all day, every day about their techniques people are going to use to cause you problems and what we need to build into Windows to help keep people protected and productive. So let me give you a quick example. One of the top security risks is phishing. It's a super popular technique used to steal passwords, and it's amazingly easy to trick people at work and at home to give them away. So logically, if you don't have a password, you can't give it away. So we believe that a better world is a passwordless world here at Microsoft. So we have built right into Windows Hello for Business, which works with a range of identity providers, including, of course, Microsoft ones like Azure Active Directory. And Hello for Business signs you into your device with a biometric, like your face or your finger, or a PIN, and those credentials are tied to your device. So to authenticate with your organization, you need your device and your face to succeed. And so that is your two-factor of authentication built right in. So Hello does give you a phish-resistant credential with the added bonus of a single sign-on experience built into the device.
Nice. Yeah, your face is always with you. That's really easy. All right, so Frank, the next question is for you.
All right, bring it on.
All right, so hybrid workplace topic, very, on everybody's mind right now as we're coming out of these days of COVID and, into our new normal. So what are some of the ways Surface and Microsoft are really working to ensure, data security for our workforce and everyone's workforce, no matter where you work?
Well, Sonia, what I really love about this session is that we have Mary Beth in Idaho. We have Catherine in Christchurch, New Zealand, way down on the South Island even. But we're able to essentially work where we need to in order to get our work done. But security is still vitally important. And it's important in a way that we want to ensure that we have the same level of security in our home office as we do in our corporate office. Well, what Surface brings is the ability to deploy a device safely through autopilot. So what we're able to do is push applications, policies, and settings straight out of the box with a super clean version of Windows. And we're able to do that from essentially being able to take the device straight from the factory to your doorstep. Now, the advancements that Surface has made, something that actually Mary Beth referred to, is the ability that we build our own UEFI. That's essentially a pre-boot operating system or a BIOS that you're able to now control things like turning on or off the camera or turning on and off the ability to boot from USB. So if we're able to do all those types of things to make a play on words, we're able to reduce the attack surface of the device. If we're able to reduce the attack surface, that means that there's less to attack. Well, in this case, when we deploy a device through autopilot, we're actually able to enroll the device with Microsoft Endpoint Manager to manage down to the firmware level. That's unique to Surface. That's something that we're able to do that not other vendors are able to do currently because of the use of the UEFI that we developed. And if we're able to do that, that means that before we get our users up to the desktop for the very first time, the device is now managed all the way down to the firmware level. So simply put, everybody's happy. IT's happy, users are happy, and we're able to allow workers to work wherever they need to in order to get their work done.
All right, Mary Beth, we have another question for you. So we've seen many vendors referring to a security processor in their device. So do Surface devices implement a similar capability, and what does it actually do for the device and its security?
So Sonia, there's always different ways to do security architecture, and companies partition the features between hardware and firmware differently. Our competitors have chosen to put more in hardware than we have, and they've had security issues in their hardware as well. We put more in firmware, which lets us update quicker than rolling a chip in silicon. Surface devices do contain a trusted platform module, a chip that securely stores cryptographic keys. We also work with some of our competitors on things like common attestation protocols for security, which is great not only for Windows and Surface customers, but for everyone using a device to access networks and data. Over time, the partitioning between hardware, firmware, and software will change based upon industry standards and technology advances. An example of a future change is the work that Microsoft has been doing in the industry on Pluton. Project Pluton brings a new level of security to devices by guarding against physical attacks on the communication bus between the TPM and the CPU. With Pluton, the TPM will run in a separate security core on the CPU, protecting the communication lines within the CPU from physical attacks. This innovation will enable a new level of protection for security keys and will require a shift in our Surface security implementation in the future.
Wow.
Is Pluton a planet?
I think it got kicked out.
Oh, man.
All right, Catherine, next question is for you. A recent Microsoft security blog pointed out that Surface services enable advanced Windows security features such as VBS and HVCI by default. Why is this important for endpoint security?
Oh, I love the acronyms in that sentence, Sonia. Thanks for tossing those to me. So an escalation of privilege attack are one of a malicious actor's other best friends, and they often target sensitive information stored in memory. So these kinds of attacks can turn a minor user mode compromise into a full compromise of your OS and your device. So to address these kind of issues, Microsoft has developed virtualization-based security, that's the VBS bit, and hypervisor protected code integrity, that's the HVCI bit, also commonly referred to as memory integrity. So VBS and HVCI use the power of hardware capabilities like virtualization to provide better protection against common and sophisticated malware by moving sensitive security operations into the operating system to a strongly isolated environment which malware can't tamper with. So that is really important for endpoint security, to have that strong built-in security into Windows. So then that blog you referred to in January did reveal that the awesome new Surface Pro 7 Plus would ship with VBS and HVCI enabled by default. And that ensures that this device has some of the strongest security capabilities of any PC out of the box.
Nice.
It is awesome.
Yeah, you got it right there. This is a Pro 7 Plus. Woo.
Oh, look at
So
that.
nice and new. Thank you so much, Catherine. All right, Frank, another
Okay.
question for you.
Yep.
Can you tell me what are some of the greatest risk points you're witnessing in endpoint security, and how is Surface working to address these?
So the buzz term we're hearing a lot in these days is secure supply chain. You know, to me, secure supply chain means a couple things. It means physically, how do we manufacture the device in order to make sure that when it is built, it's built in a secure manner in a secure facility. But what we've also seen lately is secure supply chain from a software standpoint, which means that bad actors have gotten into a supply chain of software, which is known to be good, but is being passed out as good software, but it actually has some malicious code in it. That is not a good thing. So from our perspective, what Surface is able to do is we're able to, one, build our devices in highly secured factories, but also ensure that the device and the code and the components that go into these devices is highly inspected. In fact, everything down to the microcode, from the firmware to the operating system, all of it comes from Microsoft. And we build that in a way that we infuse that with certificates onto these Surface devices so that when we ship them in a secure manner to you as the user, when you boot them for the first time with our UEFI software, we're able to ensure that what you're booting is indeed secure and is exactly what it did look like when it left the factory. So physical as well as software supply chain is a big thing, and it's something that Surface takes very seriously.
I love it. We should have a UFI counter, how many times we say UEFI during this.
You are not going to leave this without knowing what you...
If there's one takeaway, you will all learn what UEFI is.
It's the operating system before Windows.
Love it. All right, and our last question is going to go to Catherine. All right, can you share with us any other recommendations for CIOs looking to deploy, manage, and secure all these remote devices?
Oh gosh, Sonia, we have layers of security built into Windows, so it's hard to pick one. But here's a couple of others worth noting. So first, there's Windows Defender Credential Guard. So this provides hardware-based and VBS protection for NTLM, Kerberos, and domain credentials and Credential Manager. Sonia, our IT team can figure this for us, but if people listening have not done so, it's a great idea to provision it using Intune, the registry or group policy. The other thing I'll say, with so many of us working remotely and spending way too much time surfing the web and downloading stuff, I don't know if you are, but I am. My current favorite built-in feature is Application Guard, which we just released for Office and has been available for Edge for a while. So Application Guard helps keep me out of trouble by isolating untrusted documents and files from Office or Edge in a virtualization sandbox. So damage from bad macros is actually contained to that sandbox, making it harder for attackers to exploit your entire PC. So there's also Windows Defender Application Control, now powered by AI, to help you run only apps with a good reputation, rather than the IT team having to run around working out all the apps that are okay to run. So we're building right into Windows features that make the IT team look like superstars and you keep protective and productive. But Sonia, I could natter all day about layers of security and turning this and that on. However, probably the most important thing for you and everyone out there to do is just keep your device up to date. You know, known vulnerabilities are a popular attack vector, so the most up to date are the most secure. But you didn't expect it to be that easy, right?
I guess that is pretty easy. Just click that Windows update and make sure it's always up to date.
Well, I'll say, as somebody with 3 teenagers, I'm really glad there's AppGuard on all of our Windows devices at home. So,
absolutely. Okay, so very important question, rapid fire. Favorite Surface device you cannot live without? Mary Beth, you're first.
Book 3 with my Surface Pen and the whiteboard app. I use it all the time. It's awesome.
Nice. All right, Catherine, favorite device?
This one.
oh, another book.
Another book. All right.
Engineers. Engineers have books. Yep.
My Surface book. And actually, the one I can't take to New Zealand with me is my Surface Studio.
That's a little harder to take. All right, Frank, what's the device you can't live without?
All right, I'm going to first go with my Surface Duo. Obviously, I am bought in. This is the only device that I have from a phone, and I'm fully committed to this baby. But the new Surface Pro 7 Plus with i7 11th Gen Intel processor, this baby is fast and powerful and brings LTE into the space. But of course, there's a Surface Hub. Of course, there's the Pro X. I can't decide.
I know. I'm torn between my laptop and my studio because I can't live without either. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and for joining us. This is super informative. Loved hearing from both of you from, across Surface and Windows. So thank you very much. All right, this has been really fun and enlightening for me to learn not just what I can do on the individual level to ensure my data is secure, but also how organizations can protect their employees with both Microsoft Surface and Microsoft 365. We've also heard from many of our customers that Surface devices are playing a big part in their security strategy. One such customer is Bridgewater, who's leveraging Surface laptops and the full suite of Microsoft security solutions to ensure their employees' data is secure while still enabling productivity.
I'm excited and honored to have Anthony Golia, Head of Productivity Development at Bridgewater Associates, as well as Alex Peacock, Cybersecurity Principal at Bridgewater Associates, joining me today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Awesome. So I'm going to start with a little bit of softball. So can you tell us more about Bridgewater and about your roles?
Absolutely. So Bridgewater is a premier asset management firm that's been in business since 1975. Our focus is on delivering unique insights and partnership to institutional investors across the globe. At Bridgewater, my role, and I'm responsible for, our end user technology and keeping every employee productive and secure.
Yeah, and I'm a cybersecurity principal at Bridgewater. I'm responsible for security architecture, security configuration, and incident response.
Clearly very important roles to the success of your business. Do you mind explaining a little bit more why security is so important to your organization?
Security is really ingrained into our culture and the way we think about things in a first-class way. Our business problems, processes, and our security and productivity all go hand in hand. We really believe you can't have one without the other, especially when you look at running and evolving a business over the long term.
So I can imagine you were probably assessing a couple of different solutions. How did you end up specifically choosing Microsoft 365 with Surface devices?
So I think the best way to kind of explain this is to kind of take us back where the organization was a few years ago. We had this, what I think was a very ambitious vision to transform the way that everyone in the company worked over the next couple of years. if you looked at how we were working then, it was kind of your typical corporate structure. Everyone's in the office, everyone's spending a lot of time on desktop computers. Mobility is a problem. We had a lot of friction. You had a lot of overhead for managing endpoints. There was this kind of traditional friction between security and technology of like, hey, your endpoint security tools are screwing up my user experience, and and vice versa. And so we set out to kind of solve that, and really we wanted to transform the way that everyone worked at the company end to end. And in doing that, we needed to take a big step back. We needed to have like a vision that everyone agreed with, and then pick a set of devices that people wanted to use and take out of their bag, right? And be proud of that they were using. Make sure that those devices were reliable. Make sure that we were able to reduce all of this overhead that I was talking about between like IT, being able to build the devices and deploy them. Make sure that that our security tools ran well and smooth on those devices, and that being integrated in the OS was a big part. And so when we looked at lots of different devices and lots of different solutions, M365 and Surface was really a very compelling story for us, and it's proved out to work very, very well. In that we've really been able to deliver something that our users can use every day and solve a lot of those problems that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to solve, both with the devices, the deployment of the devices, securing the way that users are accessing those things through M365, Azure Active Directory, with conditional access policies, and then being able to enable them to use all the Office 365 services in a very easy way that works for them and works well for both us as technologists and Alex as a security person.
So were there any, highlights around your deployment with Surface devices?
So a couple of things that were really amazing for us was Windows Autopilot, and that kind of changed the way that we deployed devices. And so it changed it from okay, everyone's got to come to this place, we've got to do all this build process, we're going to ship the devices locally, to we're really just shipping it direct at the time. This was pre-COVID, to the offices, and someone's just walking around with a cart handing out laptops. And I got feedback from many different users around like, hey, getting my new laptop was as easy as getting a cup of coffee. And so that's kind of the experience that we were going for, and something that I think we achieved, and something that we're particularly excited about with kind of the next rev and the current version of the laptops with Autopilot is on top of White Glove, but also the DFCI process for UEFI management. And so that we can, instead of using SEM anymore, we're able to just deploy the devices, make sure that we have the UEFI locked down and secured without having to literally touch every device.
So how has this benefited you and your employees and the business overall?
I could think about this in a couple of different ways, but we were just talking about COVID, and I think the biggest thing there is that was the ultimate test for all of this. We were lucky enough to kind of take on this journey before everything struck, and knowing that we had already made this kind of transition to a zero trust model with our employees, with our devices, with the way that we were running them and having them log on and authenticate and use them. And then people were just mostly still, coming in the office, but connecting to that like Starbucks like internet connection available in the office instead of your traditional network. And so we knew everything was working, but the confidence was really built when everyone got sent home about a year ago now for COVID. And for the business, I think we continue to work without a hitch. I think that's just something that we've heard our leadership say over and over again, whether that's our technology leadership or our corporate leadership, and that like the technology has kind of kept the business running, and as is many businesses. But I think that's the biggest praise that that we can get, in that everything worked really, really well for us, and it was business as usual.
Yeah, from a security perspective, like at the highest level, right? It's easier to secure and baseline a well-managed environment, and then the tight integration between IT controls and the quality of the data that security sensors provides just has really been a material improvement.
So what are some of the most critical business challenges you have faced specifically around security?
So I think the biggest one, over this last year for us has been keeping on top of staying abreast of the situation with a rapidly changing threat landscape. And then working together with our tech teams, our security teams, on striking the right balance between the usability of the devices, keeping the employee experience kind of tied to that vision that we've wanted and had for the last few years, while implementing changes in policies that align with that vision, but add security to respond to like threats as they're coming out and changing. So you have things like an increased amount of 0 days coming out. Microsoft's been patching machines like crazy. You have different attack vectors that are happening. You have more phishing. You have more ransomware. And so as that's happening, we're not just sitting on our hands and saying, okay, we've done all the work already. We're saying, what controls do we need to shore up? What changes do we need to make? What are those choices that we made a couple of years ago when this wasn't a big problem, and that we need to make now? And how do we need to constantly evolve our platform? And that's really where I think the challenging work comes in. But I think that's also the work that I, my team, and all of our tech and security teams really come to work in every day and enjoy. Right? It's like solving those types of hard problems.
That's great. So have you seen the threat landscape change over the last year? Is there anything notable that everyone should be aware of?
Yeah, I think there's been two big themes there, right? You have this set of actors like human-operated ransomware, right? And their speed, their creativity, the tooling and capabilities that they have has just really exploded over the past year and a half, right? The commodity or criminal threats of today, right, have capabilities that we used to only think were reserved for like nation state adversaries or a much more sophisticated level of adversary. And then on the nation state side, right, as you can see with things like SolarWinds, et cetera, there's this significant spillover risk that occurs. Like we might not be particularly interesting to one of those nation state adversaries, but we could still be compromised by them. And impacted by them just because they can cast such wide nets to try and achieve their objectives.
Got it. So they might be going for a handful, but they'll just actually end up affecting thousands of other corporations just purely because of a spillover effect.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like if you look at the SolarWinds example, right, they had backdoored code that ended up being in thousands of organizations when the likelihood is they were only actually interested in a small handful of those.
Wow. So everyone's very vulnerable at this point. So everyone needs to, be aware. Is there any advice you would give to customers facing these challenges, similar to you, as they're starting to consider new solutions for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the things that I learned as a leader in our organization and took away from all of this change that we've been pushing and continue to push is that one, like have a vision that you have kind of broad agreement on across your firm, both with like your security folks, your technology folks, and then like be on the same page of what's the spirit of the user experience that you want to deliver, and then what's the spirit of how we want to be secure, like what's that level of the security bar that we're not going to lower, right? And then what's that user experience bar that we're not going to lower. And so if you have an agreement on that, you're going to be all rowing in the same direction instead of against each other. The other thing I would say is try to move yourself up the stack as much as you can. Spend your time focusing on business challenges instead of like, we talked a little bit about things like autopilot and laptop deployments and making that easy. And so the better I'm enabled to do that well, the better I'm enabled to spend more time focusing on things that come up, whether that's a security issue, as the topic of this has been security, or whether that's an actual business problem of like, okay, how do we do this better, faster? How do we make this group more productive and drill down deeper into the business and getting as much fun out of that as any of the security challenges, obviously. And then the last thing I would say is make sure that the organization up and down knows that this is just the new way that you have to work. I think like, having that mindset, having that we're constantly evolving and improving our changes, that our security and our technology and our business process all need to be communicating and working in the same direction. And that, it can't be like, hey, we're slightly at odds at each other at all. And that's just how it has to be going forward, I think. And those are the three things I would say for advice.
Thank you so much, Anthony and Alex, for joining us today and for sharing a bit more about Bridgewater.
No problem. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, I want to thank everyone for their time today. This has been a really enlightening and valuable session. Surface has always represented innovation in the PC space, whether it's by bringing to you a new 2-in-1 form factor in the Surface Pro that really turned a tablet into a device as powerful as a desktop, or brought you new modalities in personal productivity where now pen and touch are literally ubiquitous throughout most of the PC industry. And now we have these beautiful large format devices like the Surface Hub that bring collaboration to any space. The next step is chip to cloud security, where every layer is developed and maintained by Microsoft, giving you the ultimate control, proactive protection, and peace of mind wherever and however work gets done.
Thank you to everyone for joining us today and to all of our speakers. That wraps up Surface at Ignite. And for more of what is coming from Surface, be sure to watch out for future episodes of our new YouTube series, linked below.
Thank you so much. See you next time.
Yay. But high five.
Ow.